you have some name, you have a stack of paper which is generated by computer.
Yes.
It is printed, and you don't know the numbers. It just gives you all the numbers separately. They just mail it to you or whatever you want. In each machine, you just feed it through, and the number, if it doesn't match with the one that you have, which is secret, you don't know, nobody knows what is in that stack.
Well, there are various kinds of systems that try to give the voters some kind of a receipt or some kind of a record that correlates to their vote. Of course, this is a very difficult thing to do because the secret ballot says that you can't give the voter a piece of paper that lets them connect their identity to a vote. On the one hand, it's difficult to figure out what kind of receipt you can usefully give them. There are some advanced cryptographic methods that try to give the voter something, some sort of cryptographically generated receipt that they can then verify against some sort of publicly posted bulletin board of cryptographic values. And there's a whole active research area there. And I think the short answer is that we don't know how to really do that in practice. I guess I don't understand.
I don't say giving voters any register what is going on, but separately you have a stack of paper, got nothing to do with the election, who has voted for whom, but it is predetermined what it is by computer randomly.
Okay.
And these papers have been printed.
Yes.
And you just pass it through one of these machines, any one of them. And then you compare the answer that you get with the one which is already predetermined. You know in that stack what kind of answer you should get. If your machine, the counting machine doesn't count it that way, you know there's something wrong with the machine.
So can you test the recounting machine by passing through sort of test ballots?
Yes.
The idea, yes. This is something you should do, This general method is, this is an instance of a method called parallel testing, where you essentially hold a pretend election or a pretend count and try not to tell the voting machine or recount machine that this is the pretend count instead of the real one. Now, there are various methods that countermeasures against this, in which the voting machine tries to notice different patterns of, or the recount machine tries to notice different patterns that are distinctive between your test deck and the real election. There are methods, there are so-called secret knock methods where the official who's conducting this testing somehow tips the machine off by pushing some buttons or the timing of something as to what's going on. And this is certainly something you could do, but it's probably by itself not enough safeguard. If you're interested in talking more about this, we should probably talk more offline.
I'd just like to point out one other thing in this. I mean, it's a rather obvious thing, but if you're using these paper trail DREs, there is one other piece of information you need to keep, and that is you need to independently keep track of how many people have voted.
Yes, that's right. That's absolutely right, and this is something I glossed over in this presentation. You do need to keep track of how many people have voted. You need to make sure, and this is a routine check that's already done at the end of Election Day, the number of cast ballots in the polling place matches the number of people who actually showed up and checked in. At least it's not too far off. Because people being what they are, you have off by one errors every now and then. And this is actually part of any reasonable audit procedure, is that in some places, chosen randomly in an appropriate way, you verify that that's the case, that the number of papers matches the number of electronic records. And that's actually, if you look in our full paper that describes the machine-assisted recount, there is a step that does that.
To conclude there, and thank Professor Felten once again.